What's going on, everybody? It's KRYPTONIAN saying here, bringing you guys another review for Black Clover Chapter 356. And now that Chapter 356 is done in the books, man, do we got a lot to talk about, because we got Yuno hitting Lucius' new spell with that hard counter, and Yuno dropped that one bar clap back that was so mean that it left even the ever savage Lucius, the evil Wizard King, stunned for a moment when Yuno said, "I've got a rival, but that rival's not you." The fireworks are going off in this chapter, so without wasting any more time, let's dive into the review itself. So the chapter opens up with the last one left off, where Yuno and Lucius are staring at each other down, and Lucius flat out tells Yuno, "Look, kid, you're pretty strong, but you aren't strong enough to stop what's coming, so just step aside or get run over." As Yuno stares back at Lucius and is holding his ground against Lucius, the other fodder magic knights are getting spooked by what it is that they're seeing, realizing that the battles that are about to ramp up are far beyond anything that they're capable of, and this right here is a losing battle for him. Morris begins to start rambling and mumbling about rebels who have disturbed the world, how they're becoming the beings who are going to bring law and order to the world, and we can see some of that foreshadowing for the end of the chapter, where Yuno quite literally disturbs the effects of Lucius' magic while also doing something else in battle that makes him a huge headache for Lucius to deal with. Some of the other magic knights realize that while they are afraid and they are outclassed, it's still their duty to protect the citizens, regardless as to if the enemy is too powerful for them to stand up against, be it a magic knight or a noble. Their duty is to the greater Clover Kingdom itself, which in this chapter was nice to see that some of the characters still have their balls and their dignity to them. However, when we do see an attack launched, it's quickly made clear that the attacks that we're seeing are amped up, and that's when Belle reveals what it is that's happened. Belle declares that this is a byproduct of her and Yuno's love, which allows for the manipulation of magic and time inside of a set space that's been undefined, mind you, to make that magic of allies stronger and the magic of enemies weaker. And there's a huge subplot behind this whole thing with Belle that we'll touch on later. So in short, just as Naruto started handing out chakra to the Shinobi Alliance, Yuno is a mana booster pack for the entire Magic Knight army facing Lucius right now, and because of the magic itself, Yuno is also coming after the magic of his enemies, the same way that Uncle Sam starts coming after everyone's taxes every year. You can run from it, you can hide, you can dread it, but tax season arrives all the same, just as Yuno snatching up all the enemies in his area remains the same as well. That's when Yuno strikes Lucius with a powerful Mana Zone Star and Wind magic combo that's titled to be Netherland. Lucius tries to trap Yuno inside of a time spell once he sees the effect of the Mana Zone, but Yuno is able to freely move around, and that's when Lucius asks how is this possible given the properties of his magic, and Yuno then declares that this is Netherland. Time doesn't apply here, which somewhere Peter Pan is cracking open a beer at the sight of Yuno carrying on his legacy. All around Yuno, the magic knights who were previously in search of their balls, which had shriveled up in fear once they saw that they're outmatched, these same magic knights are now dishing out all the smoke to their enemies and battling it back against Lucius' forces, which is a sign of both Yuno as a leader, that he inspired the counterattack but also led the counterattack and gave tools to those who would be fighting at his side. In so many ways, we're seeing Yuno become the man who will one day be king, just not the Wizard King. Yuno's going to finish second place in that race, but Asta is going to be the one who's going to be sitting in first place when it's all said and done, and Yuno ends the chapter off by striking Lucius with his sword. Now, it's worth noting that Klaus in this chapter definitely appears as if he's not been reading the end of Black Clover yet, because he still thinks that Yuno has a shot at being Wizard King, because he's got his Yuno pom-poms on and he's cheering for Yuno, saying that he's going to be Wizard King one day. This leads to Lucius realizing that the tables have turned, and he grows annoyed with Yuno, stating that he was truly born to be his rival and that he hates him, which probably makes what Yuno says at the end of the chapter itself, right before he strikes him, sting even more, because Yuno says, "You're not my rival," which is a backhanded way of not only not acknowledging Lucius, but also putting Asta above Lucius as well, which is a great use of narrative setup, because we as readers know that Asta is coming. I love what Tabata did in this chapter, from that line about the angels bringing law and order to this world, to Yuno using magic to make those who are helpless helpless, have the power that's needed to fight back in a meaningful way, but only sharing that power until after they tried on their own to fight and failed, and they saw the gap between themselves and the enemy, which symbolically shows you what type of leader Yuno as a king's going to be in the Spade Kingdom. He's going to let his citizens try to do the lifting, and he's going to step in where needed, just like a leader should. It really does make us go all the way back to the ending of the battle against Lucifero and wonder just how big of a mistake was it to allow Asta and Yuno to live after that battle, because Yuno clearly took that time after that to master his star magic, and he clearly leveled up and is more refined in his combat skills than Asta was at the time that Asta fought Lucius, and that's on top of Yuno just being a more diverse fighter. On their own, 1 versus 1, Lucius does have an edge, but you look at this battle right now and you realize that Yuno and Asta working together in a handicap match that Lucius is not going to want, because he's not going to be able to win that fight at all. Yuno's mana zone is going to be a problem for Lucius once Yuno's able to use it in conjunction with some stronger magic knights. Look what he did with the fodder with the golem. Now imagine what he's able to do if he's got knocked in Yami doing that combo attack that they pulled out back in the Spade Kingdom. But now having it amped up by Yuno's magic as well. This does not look good for Lucius, which means we're either getting a swerve coming soon or he's about to be sitting there on the defensive until Asta shows up to take him down. However, it's worth noting that Yuno took those losses against the Dark Triad and has been on an impressive streak of fights ever since then. Every fight that he's had since that first loss against Xenon has been an absolute banger, and this one right now with Lucius is getting off to a good start, and it makes you wonder what's going to happen when Asta and Yuno end up fighting together and they get that rival boost that comes from each one not wanting to be left behind the other. The other thing about this chapter is we're seeing Tabata go back to that dungeon arc where we first meet Belle when she comes out that scroll, and we saw time stop briefly because that Netherlands spell feels like a callback to it. This makes sense for Yuno to be able to counter Lucius and his time magic because the stars, they're out there in outer space, and Yuno, he does have star magic. Star magic is clearly being set up as a hard counter to Lucius' time magic. The other thing is that if we stick to the whole Peter Pan aspect of this, Yuno and Belle using Netherland now makes perfect sense. Yuno needed his star magic, and the entrance to Netherland is the second star on the right and straight on until morning, and right now this is the biggest battle that Yuno's been able to use that star magic in, so this makes a lot of sense. Overall, this is clearly a sign that Lucius better have something up his sleeve, because if Yuno is allowed to live and fight alongside Asta, who's now mastered Zedden, Lucius is going to be in for a rough night. Now my question to you guys is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how long do you think Yuno can keep fighting at this level against Lucius, and what spell do you think Lucius has in his back pocket in order to turn the tables? While you think that over, click here to watch this Black Clover video.